present. So it's wonderful we have some attending today. Third on the agenda, I think, today. Some GO-EUC guys as well. I know Esther spoke about GO-EUC in their session. I think that you guys are heavily involved as well. So if you have any questions around the whole GO-EUC ecosystem and test framework and stuff, these are two very smart guys in that area. So do make sure you pick their brains during the day.
Well, actually, Ryan is a smart one. I'm just a pretty one.
You're just a good-looking one, right? Yeah. I use that as well. I don't know about you, but Teams has been like the absolute bugbear of my life, especially during COVID, right? Because everyone jumped on working from home and Teams, and I know it's an absolute nightmare sometimes. And I know these guys have done a lot of work in optimization, so I'm really looking forward to the session. Over to you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, London. I've always wanted to say that, by the way. So that's off my bucket list. Before we start, I just wanted to get a small lay of the land. So can I have a show of hands? Who of you here uses Teams on a daily or a weekly basis? Oh, that's nice. Good start. Who of you uses Citrix in their daily lives as an end user, as a consultant? Okay, nice one, nice one. Cloud PC? Ooh, no one Cloud PC yet? Wow, not yet. Good one. AVD? Ah, a couple of guys. Great, then we have some good news for you. Because we are going to take you on a journey on user experience with Microsoft Teams in a virtual desktop. And we made a small typo here because it says virtual desktop, but it's virtual desktops. Because we're going to talk about Cloud PC, AVD, and Citrix. But before we start, I'd like to introduce ourselves. This was a picture taken, I think, a couple of months ago at a, if you believe it or not, a tea festival. This is not beer, this is tea. This is actually very, very dark tea that we're drinking. My personal favorite is Darjeeling. And Ryan here likes forest fruits a little bit more. Yeah, what you gonna do? So anyway, my name is Eltjo. I'm a principal consultant for a Dutch company called Rawworks. I'm one of the founding members of GO-EUC. And I'm, as Neil already said, a very happy CTP.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Veres-Bijkerk. So I work as a technologist for my own company called GO-Init. As well a CTP, but also involved in other communities, and also one of the founders of GO-EUC platform. Yeah,
as I said, he's a smart one, I'm the pretty one. Keep that in mind.
I'm actually curious, Eltjo, can you explain the other logo?
This one?
Yeah.
This is me, right? I don't know, have any one of you guys seen the movie Dogma? Are any one of you guys old enough to see the movie Dogma? Yeah, there you go, buddy Jesus, buddy Christ, there you go. Thanks for that. Ryan asked me a couple of weeks ago, Eltjo, do you want to go on a trip? Do you want to present at the new EUC forum? And I said, well, if it's going to be a nice trip, yes, I am game. I'd like to. But I have to let you in on a small secret, because Ryan somehow seems to attract misfortune. And I'll explain why.
I'm a very good trip planner.
Yeah, you're a very good trip planner. Yeah, for sure. So let me show you the next picture. We went to... We went to the US a couple of weeks ago. We had a layover in JFK Airport. Excellent. 2.5 hours, right? You think that's going to be enough time to have a pint, to have a bite to eat? And this was the friggin' line that we had. We had to wait 2.5 hours to get to customs and immigration.
It was like a theme park. Like you have like the lines going.
Yeah.
It's never ending.
But this is not the worst one, right? Before that, we went to IGIL Disrupt in Munich. And we thought, let's have a road trip. Let's go by car instead of by plane. Started out nice, right? We're happy there. 10 minutes after that, BAF, there it is. Deutsche Polizei. Yeah. Apparently the car that Ryan drives is a car used by drug runners, according to Dutch Polizei. So I'm very happy to announce that we got here relatively unscathed. I mean, the flight here took us an hour. The taxi ride here from the airport also took us an hour. Well, we were warned for that. But anyway.
At least you didn't get a ticket.
At least I didn't get a ticket or a fine. Yeah, I brought my passport this time. Yeah, my bad. So Very happy to be here. If you want to tweet about our session, please do. We got some proposed hashtags for you, for all the cool kids use them. But before you start, I want to tell you something about the GO-EUC platform.
Yeah, so actually Esther already took a little bit of my thunder here. Because I already know that most of you already know now GO-EUC. But I think there's a very important phrase that we think if we look at GO-EUC. And there's this phrase, is research is creating new knowledge. And I think this is the core essence of GO-EUC. By exploring technology, we gain new knowledge, and knowledge that we can share with you here today, but we can also use it in our daily job, consulting at various companies. And yeah, we're kind of nerds, so we like to explore stuff and break stuff. And
Fix it up again.
Yeah, but this is everything, yeah, how we started with GO-EUC. Now, Esther already shown the mission statement, but I have to admit, and I noticed that also the Citrix user group has changed towards the EUC form, you're merging, but it's in transition, but we also are transitioning in our mission statement. So have we seen that running a community is difficult?
It's hard.
Very difficult. And in the beginning, we really want to facilitate the individual, but we came across that that's also difficult in terms of time, in facilitating everybody, scheduling meetings, because this is still a non-profit community that we're running. So it's all spare time that we put in to the platform. So we really try to focus again on the researchers, and as this is the entire core of GO-EUC in the platform that we run. Now, luckily, we're not doing this alone. Actually, I was a little bit slacking here that I did not update the slide because we're expanding with members. So these are currently active members of our platform. It's growing. So yeah, we're not doing this alone, just the two of us. So also Esther was here.
Yeah, it's like a song. Just the two of us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to follow that up. Yeah.
Now, we cannot run this platform without any sponsors. So in this case, Logen is our sponsor right from the start when we transformed to a non-profit organization. So we're very happy with Logen, which is also the low generation solution that we're running to simulate our tests. So if you have any spare time, I really can recommend to go to Logen and look them up, as they're helping also our platform. Now, everything what we do, we publish on our website. So Esther already showed the public repository regarding the code. So there's another initiative that we do. All the researches, including the research we're going to present today, everything about Teams, it's also written down on our website. So there's no registration required. You can just go to the site. Not now right away, of course, after the session, please. And it's in a blog style format. And we're trying to frequently post new researches around interesting topics. And it's quite broad, as you can also see that we research Formula 1, as we like Formula 1. So the agenda for today, we basically split it up in a couple sections. So first, we have to explain a little bit about the setup and configuration, how we did this research. But it's also important to define what is user experience, because I think the definition is really key in understanding the results. Then we're going to go through the results, and eventually we got the conclusion and some key takeaways at the end of this session.
Yeah, so at GO-EUC we like data. So I've put up some numbers on the screen here. For this research we recorded 24 videos, which was 8 gigabytes of video data, consisting out of more than 300,000 frames that we had. That is 16 gigabytes of frame data, 37,800 frame matches that we did, which took us a little over 1,200 lines of Python code. Mind you, that was not correct code because we needed 446 commits to get to the right code. So we've probably written much way more code than that.
We didn't have ChatGTP at that time.
Exactly. We had to do that ourselves. So this research took us 120 hours, not excluding the time it took to analyze the videos, because the analysis of the videos took us more than 60 hours. Now, I have to admit, this was my unoptimized Python code. I'm not the best Python programmer. I ran my code through ChatGTP, gave me some suggestions on how to make it faster. We're using now a CUDA core on modern GPUs, and now the whole frame match comparison analysis runs a little over 24 hours. We had 2 sleepless nights. We had 5 nervous breakdowns, and we had countless failed pipelines. So as Esther said, think big, start small. We thought big, and we started big. So don't make that mistake. And then I'll hand it over to Ryan again, and he's going to explain you a little bit on about the setup and configuration that we use at GO-EUC standard and how we did these tests.
So for this scenario, we, of course, as Eltjo already explained, we tested in the cloud. So basically we used or leveraged the GO-EUC repository and everything that's in there to provision everything in Azure. So we had our basic services on the top, and then we have our infrastructure components. So those are at least to make sure we have a desktop available, connectivity, we're leveraging containers for our agents, and then we have the desktops itself, and eventually we have the endpoint. Now it's important to note that the endpoint is at my house.
Yep.
So it's basically my office. And there we have multiple devices. So we have a capture device or a capture machine where we record everything. And we got a simulator that's basically also simulating some Teams activity. I think we got a slide later on. As Esther already mentioned, everything is in GitHub, so you can go to the repository and you can find there the AVD deployments and the Citrix Cloud deployments in there. I have to admit, I'm not 100% sure if it still works.
The QR code.
The QR code, but also the pipeline itself. So it's continuous improving. We think big, start small.
And fail fast.
Fail fast, yeah, indeed. So for desktop setup, we have a couple devices. And it's important to note here that we have a dedicated device with that black thingy, which is actually an Elgato, to make sure that we can record the team sessions itself. Now it's important to note here that we're using a dedicated device to make sure we don't impact the endpoint itself, because we want to have the optimal performance for the Teams experience, and so therefore the dedicated device. Now we have on the top the actually VDI itself with the team session. So that's being recorded by the capture device. But on the other hand, we have the simulator, which is basically also using OBS Studio, not just to record, but to simulate the webcam input. And this way we can use our assistant Anna to simulate basically a webcam where we can compare webcam streams.
Yeah, and the reason behind that is, it's very important to have reproducibility and consistency in this scenario, because we do multiple runs, and that means that we just couldn't set up a Teams meeting between the two of us and have a conversation, because we can't compare that if we do multiple runs. So what we did is we used a website called synthesia.io, and that actually allows you to have Anna here read out any lines you have. So we have a video of Anna, a high-definition video in MP4, and we feed that as a webcam plugin via OBS to Teams, actually. And that means that we can do 1 run, we can do 2 runs, we can do 10,000 runs, and we are absolutely certain that the webcam feed is consistent.
And it's also like our baseline, we can always compare towards the baseline. So at the end, everything that the data that we output is an MP4 format, so a video including the audio, in combination with some data. And we'll explain later on what data we have used for this research. Now this is actually a picture of the setup itself, so it's not like neatly spread out like the slide before, but this you see on the right side, the top screen is the simulator, the laptop is my capturing device, the left one is actually my gaming PC, which is representing the endpoint itself. So it's a quite complex and also labor-intensive setup to do this kind of researches. Luckily, I'm not doing this every day.
So this is a small slide I added up. Does everyone know what Teams optimization is, or Teams offloading? Can I have a show of hands? Who knows what Teams offloading optimization is? Okay, so for the folks that don't know, if you run Teams in a VDI environment, all the processing will run at the backend VDI, and that poses some problems. Because all the video processing is on the backend, needs to be sent over the line to the endpoint, or the audio processing is being done on the VDI and needs to be sent over. And a way to make that easier is to use optimization. And whatever form of optimization you use, if that is Citrix or AVD or Cloud PC, VMware does it as well, means that you actually offload Teams to the endpoint. So the endpoint will do all the video processing, the endpoint will do all the call processing, and the endpoint will do all the audio processing. And what we did here is we tested a couple of scenarios, and we'll dive into that a little deeper later on. And we compare the unoptimized with the optimized versions. Oh, and that's my... Next one's to me. Yeah, user experience. Woo! Who likes user experience? I like user experience. But we all know that user experience can go from to gunk, gunk, gunk very, very quickly. If you don't... Oh, that was quick. For this one. Can go from to banging your head on the wall very quickly.
Can you do it one more time?
No. I'm not going to do it again. Woo! If you do that very quickly. So, for this research, we thought about what is user experience with Teams in a VDI environment. And if you look at the Oxford Dictionary and you look up what user experience is, it says it's the overall experience of an end user using a product or service, especially in terms of how easy or how pleasing it is to use. But that doesn't really help us in Teams, does it? So we boiled it down to 3 main components for user experience. First one is latency. And if you look at latency, very basically, if you boil it down, that is the time between a user has a reaction on his endpoint device, a mouse click or a keyboard press, and the time it takes for that to appear on the screen, on the VDI. So we didn't take this into account in this research. We did, however, do some research now. It's the latest one that we have on the site, where we dove into latency. But the most important ones are audio quality and image or video quality. So if we start with the last one, audio quality, I mean, that's the main basic component of Teams, right? If you have a Teams video call without audio, I mean, you just have 15 people staring awkwardly at each other. And if I wanted to do that, I would just go to a birthday at my mother-in-law's. That's also 15 people staring awkwardly at each other. So audio quality is very important. And I'm going to make this interactive. So I got 2 sound clips here. You guys are going to hear 2 sound clips. And I want you to listen very carefully and afterwards tell me which one of these you thought sounded better. So here it comes.
Writing a list of random sentences is harder than I initially thought it would be. He was surprised that his immense laziness was inspirational to others. Writing a list of random sentences is harder than I initially thought it would be. He was surprised that his immense laziness was inspirational to others.
I think it's pretty evident, right? Who thinks that the second one sounded better than the first one?
No?
Well, the first one sounded better than the second one. There you go. It's pretty easy, right? The second one had much more
background noise, right?
Background noise, added stuff, compression. I mean, the first one was a 10 megabit file, the second one was a 1 megabit file. So there's a big difference to that. So that's the easy question. Now I've got a harder question for you. How much better was the first one than the second one? Now that's a difficult question, right? So we found a way to solve that, and it's called VSQL. It's called Virtual Speech Quality Objective Listener, which If you say it out loud, I don't think a native English speaker has come up with this acronym. But what you need to know for that is it is a way to quantify perceived audio quality. It's not a metric that we discovered, not a metric that we created. As I said, I'm the pretty one, not the smart one. If you look up Google, in Google, Viscal, and a research paper, you can read everything about Viscal. All you need to know about it is a full reference metric. And what this means is that you compare a baseline audio sample, and you compare that with one that you recorded, via Teams, for example, and it'll output you a number. And that number will represent how good the audio quality is. And that's called the MOS, the MOS, the mean opinion score. And that's a scale that runs from 5 to 1. And 5 means that the audio samples are identical of quality. 1 means it's very, very bad. We got some metrics for that for you later on. The thing that you need to keep in mind, 5 good, 1 bad, right? 5 good, 1 bad. Keep that in your mind. 5 good, 1 bad. Yeah, keep repeating that to yourself. I always do that as well. 5 good, 1 bad. So the second part is video quality or image quality. And for that, we got the same challenge, right? Write it down. Very good, very good. We got the same question. It's very easy to gauge perceived image quality. And we have a metric for that called SSIM. It stands for structural similarity. And just as Viscal, it is a full reference metric that is used to quantify image quality. And now I'm going to make this a little bit interactive. So can I have everyone please stand up? Woo. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So once you are over 40 years old, your eyesight starts to deteriorate. I mean, I'm sorry, it's true. I'm 45, I wear contact lenses, so I cheat a little bit. So could everyone under 40 stand up, and the rest please sit down. So all the old people sit down. Very sorry, very sorry. So we have just of the young people. So I'm going to discriminate a little bit more. Can everyone that's wearing contact lenses and or glasses sit down, please? Oh, we got a couple of people. So you, sir, in the front, can you do me a favor? Can you read the middle line here?
The elephant didn't want to talk about the person in the room.
Awesome. Can you also read the bottom one? Okay, you can come closer a little bit if you want to try.
They were excited to see their first slot.
Awesome, very good. Now, I'm not a licensed optometrist, so I can't say anything about your eyesight, but I reckon it's very good, right? So, you can all sit down, by the way, now. I don't want you standing up the rest of the session. But I get 2 pictures here, and same thing is, can you tell me which one is of better quality? Sorry? Which right? Your right, Marv? This one. Very good, just point. So this one is of much better quality. And how do we see that? Well, that's because of the way our eyes work. Our eyes are very in tune to see the differences between colors, between contrast, between hard lines and hard edges. And that's how we determine that this picture is of higher quality. It's much sharper, much crisper, much clearer than the other one. That one looks like it's more in soft focus. But then again, we have the same question. How much better is this one than the other one? Again, the difficult question, right? That's why we chose SSIM. SSIM is, again, a metric that we can use, and this time to determine the overall quality of an image. Now, this skill goes a little bit different, so pay attention. So if you have an SSIM score of 1, it means that the picture you're testing has got similar quality of the tested image. So they're identical. Everything lower than 1 means that the quality deteriorates. Now the scale's a little bit different here, and roughly speaking, everything above 0.95 is considered good enough, right? There's a quality difference between it, but it is good enough. Now that you guys know our setup, you know what we tested, you know how we test it, and you have at least a basic understanding of what user experience is and how we define user experience, let's dive into the results.
But
Almost dive into the
before
results.
we go to the actual results, I think it's important at least to cover the scenarios itself. So for this research, we tested 3 different scenarios, so 3 different platforms. So in this case, we have the AVD, Citrix, Citrix Cloud, and the Cloud PC itself.
Yeah, that no one uses yet here, but stay tuned.
So in Cloud PC, if you order a Cloud PC, you have a couple of options and in terms of performance. And there is an important note there that if you want to use Teams in a Cloud PC, you have to have the, which offer was it again?
Sorry?
Which offer of the Cloud PC was it? The medium one?
Yeah, it's the medium one, so 2 vCPUs and 8 gigabytes of memory.
Otherwise, you cannot use the video within the Cloud PC. So what we have done, we have looked up a similar SKU in Azure in order to match the AVD setup and the Citrix Cloud setup with similar specs. So we're not 100% sure if the exact same SKU, but in terms of at least the vCPUs and the memory, it's comparable.
Yeah, difficult to gauge what hardware is underneath is being used by Microsoft, right? One of the issues that you have when you're doing performance and load testing in the cloud. We're not sure yet, but at least it is comparable.
So for each individual scenario, we have like 2 additions. So we have Teams optimizations enabled and Teams optimization disabled. So that means that there's no offloading taking place towards the endpoint. So those are the researches. Now, usually if we do a research, we always repeat our test 10 times, but in this case, it's a little bit difficult because we cannot like average the results. We have to go to each individual videos, have to make sure that the video recorded is okay. So therefore,
Or we actually started the recording, and yes, we happened to forget that in a couple of instances.
it happened. So in this case, we ran each individual scenario 3 times. So one thing that Eltjo already mentioned, for us the consistency is very important. So you're looking at the SSCM score here, so that means it's 1 good,
0 bad.
0 bad, indeed. But you're looking at one scenario here with the individual runs. And one thing that we have noticed that the first capture that we started, so there was we have the team session enabled, we're starting the webcam stream or the video itself. We noticed that the first one has a lower score. That means that the quality of the session was actually worse compared to the other 2. So for the results, what we have done is we've always chosen the best score and compare those with the other ones.
Yeah, in this case, it is always the run that has the highest SSCM value. And we have video for that, by the way.
Yeah. So this is actually, you're going to watch the video of our assistant, Anna. You're going to hear the same audio what you heard earlier, but now including the video. And in this case, you're looking at a AVD versus the baseline itself. So this is the source file. And especially look at the AVD one, and if you can play it.
Yep.
Writing a list of random sentences is harder than I initially thought it would be. He was surprised that his immense laziness was inspirational to others. The elephant didn't want to talk about the person in the room. He was paranoid about being paranoid. They were excited to see their first sloth. Shakespeare was a famous 17th century diesel mechanic. Grape jelly was leaking out the hole in the roof. I caught my squirrel rustling through my gym bag. Malls are...
So actually what we already have discovered is that once you set up a call, it takes time for the optimization to kick in. And that's what we saw in the data. It took about like 20 to 30 seconds in order to optimize the stream, and then you saw the switch, then it going smooth. And we actually noticed that in the data, in the results, as it produces a lower score. Now again, if we look in this case to the chart, so this is the same, basically the same individual runs. In this case, we have selected, I have to peek.
Run number 3.
Indeed.
Oh, it's not true. Run number 2.
Because
sorry, I lied.
On average scale, it's the best run. So that one is selected at least to compare also with the other comparisons. Now if we look to, in this case, optimized versus unoptimized, we can clearly see there is a quality difference. And you can see that for the optimization, when the optimization is applied, so in this case the best run, you will get a better image quality.
Yeah, and the image quality is actually not that far off of 1, and it means that the image and video quality you get from an optimized scenario is basically almost as good as it's going to get with optimization. That was really the conclusion that we had, was very striking. So optimization, in the case of AVD, I'm going to let you in a little secret, the other ones probably as well, is very good for the image quality that we have. Because if we take a look at the other one, the next one, Citrix, we can see as well that the image quality that is presented in Citrix with Teams is way better when you have an optimized scenario. And we also did some tests in the past, and we looked at the performance difference and the scalability of using optimization in Citrix. And we already saw there is that using optimization is very good for the scalability of your VDI platform at the back end. And this means that it's not only gets you the best performance for your end users, but in terms of user experience, it also gets you the best image quality. We'll get to that. We'll answer your question then. Yeah.
Now in this case we got, again, a comparison. And I'm actually curious, because there's going to be a comparison of, in this case, Citrix with optimized and non-optimized. And I'm curious if you can see the difference. So,
with these two pictures, can anyone see which scenario is optimized, which one, and which is not optimized?
I can.
So, what we noticed is...
You already saw the session probably, yeah.
What we noticed is apparently the UX designers for the optimization team and the non-optimization team in Citrix or in Teams don't talk to each other because there's a discrepancy. Why is it here a floating bar? Why is it not a floating bar here? And that also gave us one of the sleepless nights, right? Because this also means that...
And two nervous breakdowns.
Two nervous breakdowns. Microsoft says we're not doing anything with the stream when you use it unoptimized, with the video stream. They lied. They do. They scale it about 0.4%. Why? Why? Because I said the metric that we're using, SSCM, is a full reference metric. So we take a frame, we extract a frame from the baseline, and we do that with the optimized as well. We record it, we extract the frame, and we compare the frames. Now, that only works if they are the same scale. So all we had to do is we had to figure out why in Tornation it was a 0.4% scale, and it took us a couple of hours to come to the conclusion that it was a 0.4% scaling issue.
So actually, we have written a script that can basically randomize or go to iteration of resizes and also trying to map based on actually the face, the picture in the picture itself. So that's also one of the reasons why we have also over 400 commits of because we are figuring out how everything works.
But back to the videos. So again, we have an optimized scenario versus a non-optimized scenario.
Funny because it's the other way around.
It's the other way around. Okay. It's been a while since we've done this.
Writing a list of random sentences is harder than I initially thought it would be.
Oh, now I see it. Yeah.
He was surprised that his immense laziness was inspirational to others. The elephant didn't want to talk about the person in the room.
Listen carefully.
He hit the point where he was paranoid about being paranoid. They were excited to see their first sloth. Shakespeare was a famous 17th century diesel mechanic. Grape jelly was leaking out the hole in the roof. I caught my squirrel rustling through my gym bag.
So again, I don't know if it's visible, but can you guys discern the difference in image quality between these two? Because we saw on the charts that was there, but it's also noticeable. Of course, it also always depends on A, how good your eyesight is, B, what kind of screen you have in front of you in your computer, room, if you got a 4K 40-inch screen and you sit 20 centimeters in front of it, it might be easier to discern that than when you're at the back here looking at this screen. But there is a difference, and we showed you what the difference was in this. Now, we also tested Cloud PC, and the funny thing that we noticed is that Cloud PC also has optimization in there, but the unoptimized scenario is way worse than the AVD one, which is strange because I always thought that they were based on the same technology stack. Now, Cloud PC is, of course, a much newer offering, and maybe they needed to do some additional work to that, but there was a clear difference in that. So especially when you want to use Cloud PC with Teams, it is very good to use optimization because it will really make a huge difference for your users in terms of the video quality that they have in Teams.
There's one important note here, because if you order a Cloud PC, it's by default optimized already.
Yeah.
So you have to actually adjust it. If you don't want, you have to non-optimize.
And what scenarios could you have that you don't want to optimize it, Ryan?
Can do by the endpoint.
Exactly. Because as we said, optimizing Teams means that you're offloading it to your endpoint. And if your endpoint isn't strong enough or good enough to render that video and that audio stream, you are going to have a way worse experience.
Same problem if you don't optimize it. Where it's an extremely high-end machines in the
Yeah.
data set that wanted to run non-optimized.
Exactly. Yeah.
The problem we found was all the peripherals didn't work,
Yeah.
which was the big
Yeah.
drawback.
True. True. And actually, especially for you, we got this slide. So this basically answers your question. So I'm a Citrix man at heart,
Non-optimized.
non-optimized. Doesn't make that much of a difference, apart from Cloud PC. Cloud PC is way worse, in terms of image quality.
Guys, you're going to do something about the audio, because obviously you haven't analysed the audio in this lesson.
Yeah, it's coming up later on. Yeah, we still got 9 minutes, so we're good to go. This is the optimized scenario. And if you look at these two in terms of video and image quality, they are neck and neck. If we want to be very pedantic, Citrix comes out on top by a very narrow margin.
You will never notice at least a difference from a quality perspective, from a human being at least. That you cannot see this difference.
No, this difference is so minute, it's no. Especially not for me, I'm over 40, I can tell you that, so I can't see the difference between optimized Citrix and optimized AVD.
But it also makes sense, it makes sense that the results are similar, because the technology implementation of offloading is basically also similar between AVD and also Cloud PC, but also Citrix. Esther.
So with Cloud PC optimized, did you take advantage of the HDX?
Nope.
No.
It's just their
Yeah.
Native.
Yeah, we did not test HX Plus. Yeah. Yet. We did not test HX Plus yet.
Oh, sorry.
I think you said AVD optimized, it started off, was it optimized or unoptimized? It started off poorly and then improved. Which one was that one?
It's the first, we have noticed that if you set up an offloading or an optimized team session, no matter what solution you're using, all of them, you will see that it takes time at least to the optimization to kick in. But that applies for every scenario.
Yeah.
If you're using Cloud PC, Citrix or AVD, it doesn't matter. It's for everything.
And basically the reason behind that is that if you use optimization, all the optimization techniques are dynamic, they work dynamic, so they will see how much bandwidth do I have, what is the latency, what's the capability of my endpoint, and it'll adjust it accordingly. But it takes some time for the protocol to determine what the optimal quality is. And that means that the first 15, 20 seconds, you have an unoptimized stream, even though you have enabled optimization. Especially for Lee here. We also did audio comparisons, of course. And I know someone wrote down here what the scores was. 5 good, 1 bad. And if you look at the audio comparison here, and this one is the Citrix one, we can see that if you have an optimized scenario, the audio quality is also better than if you have it unoptimized. And Again, it also makes sense, right? Because the audio is local on your endpoint device. It doesn't have to be sent over by the remoting protocol. Now, the remoting protocol, whichever one you use, Citrix, AVD, or any other, is very good at that. But it's not perfect. And we can see that here. So again, audio quality, if you want the most crisp audio calls, optimize your Citrix environment.
You actually already heard it. And in the comparison, you already heard that the audio difference was better when offloading was enabled.
Well, same holds true for AVD. I think after the last charge that we saw, nobody was surprised at that. Audio quality, if you optimize that for AVD, audio quality is again much better. Same holds true for Cloud PC. Funny thing here, though, is that if you look at the audio quality, out of the box and optimized, it's much better in Cloud PC than the image quality is. So we put that into a comparison chart here. These are the ones that we have here, AVD, Citrix, and Cloud PC. The unoptimized ones, and these are the optimized ones. They're very, very close together. Again, I'm over 40. If you let me hear 2 audio samples between AVD, Citrix, and Cloud PC, I couldn't tell you the difference in audio quality. I can't, really can't. Maybe other people can, but we can't. So that brings us to the conclusion. I think the first conclusion that we have is pretty simple, right? Optimization, yeah, woo! It's awesome. But we also had a conclusion from this research, and that was that this was a labor of love. We went into this thinking big, and we didn't start small, and we didn't expect to spend more than 180 hours in total on this, but we had some fun, apart from the sleepless nights. The 2 sleepless nights, the 2 also represented 2 angry spouses, because our wives weren't that happy with us doing this for this amount of time.
The funny thing is that we thought of this like, okay, we're going to compare this and it's going to be easy. Just going to take us capturing the data. It's going to be 1 day, and then we're going to analyze it, maybe 1 or 2 days, and then we're done. But then we had like the sizing difficulties, and it's really difficult at least to do these kinds of researches. But again, it's a passion also from a GO-EUC perspective that we like to do this.
How long before your wives get asking you, who is that woman you're talking to for hours?
2 minutes. 2 minutes it took. Anyway.
I introduced her by at dinner. My assistant. Yeah. So I think the first conclusion, testing user experience, especially in Teams, it's a nightmare. It's very, very, very difficult. Now,
the next one's for me then.
you have to read it?
Yeah, I need to read it out. It's been a while since I've done this slide, but I already alluded to this one, right? Offloading on Microsoft Teams in general provides the best user quality in terms of audio and video quality.
So we already also noticed that when you apply optimizations, it takes time to kick in. You'll probably see that in the first 20 to 30 seconds, the quality is not that optimal, but then eventually the stream is set up, and then you have to be the most optimal quality.
Last point already pointed out as well, make sure if you use optimization, even if you don't use optimization, that your endpoint is capable of decoding the stream, right? Whether you don't use, choose not to use optimization, or if you do, for instance, if you look at Citrix, HX, right? It's a H.264 stream, it's a video stream. Your endpoint needs to be able to decode that stream fast enough in order to have the best user experience. I've seen a lot of companies that invested heavily in vGPUs in the VDI environments, and the endpoints were an afterthought. Well, we got some thin clients. They're 10 years old, but they still work. Yeah, but
it's also like the agile use case,
yep.
Where you're recycling old hardware, but please make sure you keep in mind that all hardware does have impact on the user experience. And actually have a research on our blog about the impact of endpoints.
So the key takeaway is, and we didn't put that in, but make sure that at least your endpoint has the capability to use hardware-assisted decoding for H.264, because that's massively going to help you in your end user experience. Oh, there we go. Also, make sure that you keep on top of your updates. So we talked about applications a lot of people talking about application updates. Make sure that you keep your applications updated. That means a Teams client, that means your AVD client, your RDP client, that means your Citrix receiver, a workspace app. Make sure that you use the latest version if you want to take all the latest features into account. That also means, for this case, don't stick with LTSR and use CR if you want to get the latest and greatest. And right after we did this research, both Christian Brinkhoff and Fernando Kleurvan said we introduced new features. Did we test them? No. Because we already spent 180 hours in it. But make sure you keep up to date with everything, because that will have a huge impact on your environment.
And there's also a lot of innovation in there. We already saw that quite recently. They also announced big improvements in quality regarding offloading in Teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid to ask, but are you planning to test it?
Last slide.
Okay, so let's go to the key takeaways. And to admit I have to sneak peek, but make sure you are up to date. To make sure you can at least leverage all the new functionality and capabilities is really important, at least to get all the latest versions.
Yeah, before you put stuff into production, or if a user calls the help desk and says, I have problems with my Teams, quality isn't good, make sure that you check if you have optimization enabled. You can do that if you go to Teams, to About and Version. It'll show a banner whether you're optimized or not, whether it's AVD optimized or Citrix optimized, it'll tell you that. Or, alternatively, you can use RDA, Remote Display Analyzer, to see if you're optimized, yes or no.
Which is a community tool for analyzing your protocols. Another location where you can validate if offloading is enabled are these registry locations, and those need to be configured on the DWORD 1.
Yep. So I said I was the pretty one and Ryan was the smart one. I have to admit, he made a great mistake on testing, because the documentation from Microsoft said if you want to use optimization for Teams in AVD and Cloud PC, make sure that the remote desktop WebRTC redirector service is installed before installing Teams. And if you don't do that, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to work. It took us a couple of hours to come to that conclusion.
Indeed.
Which Citrix VDA version did you test with?
That is a very good one. We outlined that in the blog post. I don't know it by heart anymore.
Yeah.
Nope, it was CR. Yeah, we tested CR. Yeah.
CR at time of we did the research, but I think we did it last year. We collected all the data, so and the data set it's already a bit old. And that also is the reason why Esther asked that question. If we're going to do it again. Probably we have to.
Yeah.
Well, I think the good escape is that it's not ready for a virtualized desktop.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
So I'll let you in a little secret. What's next? I put it in there. Right, we got a new Teams. I don't know if anyone used the new Teams experience. For me, it broke instantly when I enabled it, so there's still some work to do with that. But yes, I think we're going to test it. If people want to see the new versions of this tested as well, of course we're going to do that.
So let's wrap up at least with the last key takeaways, because I think we're on time now.
No, we're already 2.5 minutes over.
Oh, crap, sorry. Make sure you have at least the minimum requirements. So in this case, if you want to use audio only, you have to have 2 vCPUs, a minimum of 2 vCPUs, and 4 gigs of memory. If you want to include the video stream, make sure you have at least 8 gigs available.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to have a very hard time. And again, this is a minimum requirement, right? Make sure that you test it on your own environment itself. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as we did, but please make sure you test it before you put it into production. So another one, best practice from Microsoft for Teams. If you don't have a vCPU in your VDR environment, make sure that you disable hardware encoding in Teams. Needs to restart, by the way, to become effective. And if you're using WAM or any other equivalent, make sure that you have CPU and memory spike protection in there, because that could really help you for your, not for the quality of your environment, but for getting the most performance out of it.
Do we have data for that, Eltjo?
Not yet, Ryan. Good question. Thank you very much. And that actually brings us to our last slide. Yeah, what's next? We already said that new Teams version. So I think we are back at square one then.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the event, guys.
Tons of information there. Thank you very much, guys. One thing I'd like to see you test, which I think is a third scenario, is when Teams is optimized, but the end client doesn't have connectivity to Microsoft. Because we see that quite a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously the optimization has the client can have a direct path to Microsoft for audio and video.
Yep.
But it might not, right?
Exactly.
So you can still kind of offload Teams, but actually the traffic still has to go back to the VDA to get to Microsoft. So I think that's a scenario that can affect audio visual quality. So it's a kind of like a halfway optimized.
It does, for sure. It was a very interesting one.
Write it down and make a note of that.
I think that's a real world scenario I see quite a bit. Is where the clients haven't thought about that connectivity. They just install Teams and hope for the best it's going to work, right? Anyway, we have